The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns of a quiet Florida suburb. The air, thick with the scent of jasmine and impending rain, held a chilling secret. Inside a modest single-story home, a tragedy had unfolded, shattering the illusion of peace. An 11-year-old boy, his face pale and streaked with tears, stood accused of a horrific crime, the murder of his own aunt. The details, still emerging, painted a grim picture. A heated argument, a readily accessible firearm, and a moment of untamed rage, a recipe for disaster that ended in irreversible loss. The boy, whose name remained shielded by legal protections, now faced a future shrouded in uncertainty. His life, once filled with the promise of childhood, was irrevocably altered, stained by the weight of his actions. The community reeled in shock and disbelief. How could a child, barely old enough to navigate the complexities of adolescence, commit such a heinous act? The questions lingered, echoing through the stunned silence that followed the tragedy. The answers, complex and multifaceted, lay buried deep within the boy's troubled past, a past marked by a series of unfortunate events and missed opportunities for intervention. This was not just another isolated incident, a fleeting headline in a world saturated with violence. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of childhood, the insidious nature of societal ills, and the urgent need for proactive measures to protect our most vulnerable citizens. The boy's story, though steeped in tragedy, served as a potent symbol, a call to action for a society grappling with the pervasive issue of youth violence. Behind the facade of normalcy, the boy's life was far from idyllic. Whispers of a troubled past circulated among neighbors and acquaintances, painting a picture of a child grappling with unseen demons. Early signs of aggression, coupled with a proclivity for solitude, hinted at a deeper struggle, a silent cry for help that went unheeded. School records revealed a pattern of disruptive behavior, characterized by frequent outbursts and difficulty focusing in class. Teachers, overwhelmed by burgeoning class sizes and limited resources, struggled to address the boy's needs, often resorting to disciplinary measures that further alienated him. The cycle of frustration and isolation deepened, pushing the boy further into the shadows. At home, the situation was no less challenging. The boy's parents, grappling with their own personal struggles, were ill-equipped to provide the emotional support and stability he desperately craved. Their relationship, strained by financial woes and simmering resentment, created a volatile environment, leaving the boy feeling lost and insecure. The absence of a consistent, nurturing presence in his life left a gaping void, a breeding ground for anger, resentment, and despair. The boy, starved for attention and affection, found solace in the virtual world, immersing himself in video games and online forums that offered an escape from the harsh realities of his daily life. The family unit, often idealized as a haven of love and support, had crumbled under the weight of its own internal conflicts. The boy's parents, once united by dreams of a brighter future, had drifted apart, their relationship reduced to a series of bitter exchanges and icy silences. The boy, caught in the crossfire, bore witness to the slow disintegration of his family, his sense of security shattered. His aunt, the victim of this senseless tragedy, had stepped in to fill the void, offering a glimmer of hope in the boy's troubled world. Her presence, though a source of comfort, could not fully compensate for the fractured foundation upon which the family teetered. The cracks, long ignored, had deepened, threatening to swallow them whole. Financial instability added another layer of stress, casting a long shadow over their lives. The specter of unemployment loomed large, fueling anxieties and exacerbating existing tensions. The boy, acutely aware of his family's precarious situation, internalized their struggles, adding to his growing sense of hopelessness. The home, once a sanctuary, had transformed into a battleground, a space where unspoken resentments festered and tempers flared. The boy, trapped in this toxic environment, retreated further into himself, seeking refuge in a world of fantasy and escapism. The seeds of anger and despair, sown in the fertile ground of familial dysfunction, took root, slowly poisoning his young mind. Beyond the confines of his troubled home, the boy faced another set of challenges: the relentless pressures of society. Growing up in an era saturated with violence, both real and virtual, he was bombarded with images and narratives that glorified aggression and desensitized him to the sanctity of human life. Video games, often lauded for their entertainment value, became a training ground for virtual warfare, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. Social media, with its curated portrayals of perfection and instant gratification, fueled a sense of inadequacy and fostered unhealthy comparisons. The boy, already struggling with feelings of isolation and low self-worth, found himself caught in a relentless cycle of seeking validation and falling short of unattainable standards. The culture of violence extended beyond the digital realm, permeating the very fabric of his community. News reports, filled with stories of senseless acts of aggression, served as a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the ever-present threat of danger. The boy, exposed to this steady stream of negativity, internalized the message that violence was an acceptable, even expected response to conflict. Peer pressure, a potent force in the lives of adolescents, further compounded the boy's struggles. The desire to fit in, to gain acceptance from his peers, led him down a path of risky behavior, pushing him to embrace a tough guy persona that masked his inner turmoil. The boy, desperate to prove his worth, adopted the language and mannerisms of those he admired, perpetuating a cycle of aggression that ultimately spiraled out of control. Section 5. The warning signs, missed opportunities, and a cry for help. The tragedy, though shocking in its brutality, was not without its precursors. Looking back, a trail of warning signs, subtle yet significant, pointed to the boy's escalating emotional distress. These red flags, often dismissed as typical adolescent angst or attributed to external factors, represented missed opportunities for intervention, chances to address the underlying issues before they reached a boiling point. Changes in behavior, once subtle, became more pronounced. The boy's academic performance plummeted, his once bright eyes now clouded with apathy and despair. He withdrew from social interactions, preferring the solitude of his room to the company of friends and family. His once infectious laughter was replaced by a sullen silence, a palpable sign of his inner turmoil. Outbursts of anger, once infrequent, became more frequent and intense. Objects were thrown, doors slammed, and words laced with venom spewed forth in moments of uncontrolled rage. These episodes, though alarming, were often met with exasperation rather than concern, further fueling the boy's sense of isolation and frustration. The boy's fascination with violence, once confined to the virtual realm, began to bleed into his real-world interactions. He spoke of weapons with an unsettling familiarity, his words laced with a chilling detachment that belied his tender age. His drawings, once filled with vibrant colors and whimsical creatures, now depicted scenes of darkness and destruction, a haunting reflection of his inner turmoil. Echoes of the past, drawing parallels to similar tragedies. The boy's tragic story, though unique in its specific details, resonated with a chilling familiarity. It echoed the narratives of countless other young lives cut short by senseless acts of violence, each case a stark reminder of the pervasive issue of youth aggression and the urgent need for preventative measures. The Columbine High School Massacre, a watershed moment in the national conversation on school safety, cast a long shadow over this latest tragedy, highlighting the devastating consequences of unchecked anger and easy access to firearms. The Virginia Tech shooting, another horrific incident etched in the annals of American history, served as a chilling reminder of the potential for violence to erupt on seemingly peaceful campuses. The perpetrators, often portrayed as lone wolves driven by personal demons, shared a common thread: a history of social isolation, difficulty coping with stress, and access to deadly weapons. The Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, a tragedy that shook the nation to its core, underscored the vulnerability of even our youngest citizens to the scourge of gun violence. The perpetrator, a troubled young man with a history of mental health issues, unleashed his rage on innocent children, leaving behind a legacy of grief and unanswered questions. These past tragedies, though painful to revisit, offered valuable insights into the complex factors that contribute to youth violence. They highlighted the importance of early intervention, mental health support, and responsible gun control measures in preventing future tragedies. The boy's story, though steeped in sorrow, served as a potent reminder that we, as a society, must learn from the mistakes of the past and take proactive steps to protect our children from the scourge of violence. Picking up the pieces. The family's journey through grief and guilt. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the family grappled with a maelstrom of emotions. Grief, sharp and unrelenting, pierced through their hearts, leaving behind a gaping wound that refused to heal. The loss of their loved one, so sudden and senseless, shattered their world, leaving them adrift in a sea of pain and confusion. Guilt, a heavy burden to bear, weighed down their already fragile spirits. Questions swirled in their minds, tormenting them with endless what-ifs and regrets. Could they have done more? Were there signs they missed? The weight of their self-recrimination threatened to crush them, adding another layer of suffering to their already unbearable loss. The boy, now facing the harsh realities of the legal system, became a symbol of their collective trauma. His actions, though inexcusable, stemmed from a complex web of factors, a culmination of personal struggles, familial dysfunction, and societal pressures. The family, torn between their love for the boy and the horror of his actions, struggled to reconcile their conflicting emotions. The road to healing, long and arduous, demanded a reckoning with the past, a willingness to confront the painful truths that had long been buried. Therapy, both individual and familial, offered a safe space to process their grief, to explore the root causes of the tragedy, and to begin the slow and painful process of rebuilding their shattered lives. A call for action, addressing the root causes of youth violence. The boy's tragic story served as a wake-up call, a stark reminder that the issue of youth violence demanded a multifaceted approach, one that addressed the root causes rather than simply reacting to the symptoms. It highlighted the urgent need for a collective effort, a commitment from individuals, communities, and institutions to create a safer and more supportive environment for our children. Early intervention programs, designed to identify and address behavioral issues in young children, played a crucial role in preventing future tragedies. By providing struggling families with the resources and support they needed, these programs offered a lifeline, a chance to break the cycle of violence before it took root. Mental health services, often stigmatized and underfunded, were essential in addressing the emotional and psychological needs of children facing challenges. By providing access to counseling, therapy, and medication management, these services offered a safe haven, a space for children to process their emotions, develop coping mechanisms, and build resilience. Educational initiatives aimed at fostering empathy, conflict resolution skills, and responsible digital citizenship were crucial in shaping a generation of compassionate and responsible individuals. By empowering children with the tools to navigate the complexities of interpersonal relationships and the digital world, these initiatives laid the groundwork for a more peaceful and understanding society. Preventing future tragedies, a multifaceted approach to child safety. Preventing future tragedies required a multifaceted approach, one that addressed the issue of youth violence from multiple angles. It demanded a commitment to creating a culture of safety and support, one that prioritized the well-being of children and provided them with the tools they needed to thrive. Responsible gun control measures, a topic often fraught with political debate, played a crucial role in reducing the risk of gun violence. By implementing stricter background checks, limiting access to high-capacity magazines, and promoting safe storage practices, we could create a safer environment for our children and communities. Community-based initiatives designed to foster a sense of belonging and provide children with positive role models offered a powerful antidote to the isolation and despair that often fueled aggression. By creating spaces where children felt valued, supported, and connected, these initiatives nurtured a sense of hope and purpose, reducing the likelihood of them resorting to violence. Investing in our children's future meant prioritizing their mental, emotional, and physical well-being. It meant providing them with access to quality education, healthcare, and social services, ensuring that they had the resources and support they needed to reach their full potential. By creating a society that valued compassion, empathy, and nonviolence, we could pave the way for a brighter future, one where tragedies like the Florida boy story became relics of a bygone era.